A massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, especially these days. 8 different settings, adjustable intensity, plus it's heated, and it just feels so good. Yes, a massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, but when it can come with a car, suddenly it seems quite practical. The all-new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan, packed with premium features like available massaging front seats, it only feels extravagant.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
And away we go. Episode 1097 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Wednesday, June 18th, 2025, and the NHL's 2024-2025 season is over. The Florida Panthers, they on Tuesday night ripped the Edmonton Oilers 5-1 to win the best-of-7 Stanley Cup final, 4-2. Second consecutive Stanley Cup title for the Panthers as the drought continues for Canada. No Canada-based team has won a Stanley Cup title since the Montreal Canadiens in 1993. That is amazing. The state of Florida has won 4 of the 6 Stanley Cup titles this decade. The Tampa Bay Lightning in 2020 and 2021, the Panthers in 2024 and 2025. But Canada remains without a Stanley Cup title since 1993. Hello and welcome to this Wednesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. Next segment, high-level, high IQ, X's and O's analysis of Commanders receiver Luke McCaffrey and the team's depth at receiver, as we'll speak with Commanders analyst Mark Bullock of Bullock's Film Room, which you can find at markbullock.substack.com. It has been a while since we spoke with Mark. There's a good reason for that. You'll hear that reason. And off receiver Noah Brown being carted off the field during the Commanders' mandatory minicamp practice on June 11th with an injury about which we still know nothing. We'll explore the team's depth at receiver and focus especially on Luke McCaffrey, who had a disappointing rookie season in terms of playing time and production, but how much of that truly was on him? The truth about Luke McCaffrey's rookie season, as hopefully we can handle the truth.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
That's right. The classic exchange between Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson in the great movie A Few Good Men. Jack and Tom, that'll be like Mark and me. Next segment about the truth about Luke McCaffrey's rookie season. Also on the show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles, 2 teams going in very opposite directions. The Nats now have lost 10 consecutive games, a 10-6 loss to the MLB-worst Colorado Rockies at Nationals Park on Tuesday evening in a game in which the Nats allowed 6 runs in the top of the 7th and got out-homered 7-2. The O's, they now have won 15 of their last 22 games, a 5-1 win at the Tampa Bay Rays on Tuesday night. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. From Edge on X, on Nats president of baseball operations and general manager Mike Rizzo and Nats manager Davey Martinez writes Edge, do you think Rizzo and Davey should be fired if the team doesn't win the series versus the Rockies? Thank you for that edge. I don't think that one series should ever determine the fate of a GM or manager. I do think that a failed rebuild can determine the fate of a GM or manager. And if the Nats end up having a really bad season and thus view the rebuild as a failure, then I do think that a total house cleaning will be in order. Mike Rizzo out, Davey Martinez out. As I've been saying on the podcast this week, the Nats rebuild isn't working. This is season number 5 of the Nats rebuild. The Nats should be much further along than they are. The Nats rebuild isn't working. Now, that can change as the season goes on, so I am willing to give Rizzo and Martinez the rest of this season. It is worth noting that Davey Martinez is not under contract beyond this season. The Nats on August 22nd, 2023 announced having agreed with Martinez on a multi-year contract extension, what reportedly was a 2-year contract extension with an option for a third season, which would be the 2026 season. Mike Rizzo's contract status is less certain. The Nats on September 13th, 2023 announced having agreed with Rizzo on a multi-year contract extension. How long that extension is for, we don't know. Email from Eric Wagner on something that he saw in a store. Writes Eric, "Hey Al, I never thought I'd see the day when the district was represented in my hometown Meijer store in Grand Haven, Michigan. Simply the best. Couldn't believe this when I saw it. Man, I can't wait till this season starts. Hashtag JD5. Thanks always for the show." Well, thank you for the email, Eric, and included in the email is a photo. The photo is of jerseys or shirts of Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels being on sale at this store, Meijer. I had to Google what Meijer is. Meijer, M-E-I-J-E-R. We in the Washington, D.C. area, of course, have Giant and Safeway and Aldi, not to be confused with Galdi, but I had never heard of Meijer until this email. But how about that? Jayden Daniels merch on sale at a Meijer store in Grand Haven, Michigan. I tell you, Daniels has national appeal. Remember, we this past Wednesday, June 11th, learned that Daniels, per the NFL Players Association, was number 4 among all NFL players in, quote, sales of officially licensed player products, end quote, for the period of March 1st, 2024 through February 28th, 2025. You combine that with the Commanders' 2025 regular season schedule, which features 8 standalone games, including 5 primetime games, and our QB1, Jayden Daniels, really is becoming one of the faces of the NFL. Up next, we chat with Commanders analyst Mark Bullock about Luke McCaffrey and the team's depth at receiver.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Yo, it's D-Lo. I'm partnering with Ro. Women, y'all feel that? It's sexy. But if you're stressing about your performance, it throws you off. That's why I rock with Ro Sparks. Ro Sparks dissolve under your tongue and hit fast so you're ready when the moment pops off. You feel like a superhero. It's satisfying your partner. That's key. Ro Sparks help you last longer, stay fuller, and keep the whole vibe right. With Prescribe, new patients get $15 off their first order. Hit up ro.co/backyard and to see if Ro Sparks are right for you. That's ro.co/backyard and see if Ro Sparks are right for you.
Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved. Do not undergo FDA safety effectiveness or manufacturing review. For full safety information, go to ro.co/safety-info.
Hey, if you are listening to this podcast via Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can rate the podcast with a star rating. 5-star ratings are greatly appreciated. They help us out a lot. Thank you for doing them. This episode of the podcast is for Wednesday, June 18th. It was on Wednesday, June 11th that Commanders receiver Noah Brown got carted off the field on what was day 2 of the team's 3-day mandatory minicamp. And amazingly, we still know nothing about the status of Brown. No updates, no reports, nothing. We don't know what the injury is, how hurt he is. Is this a season-ending injury? Is this a sorta serious injury? Is this a not-too-bad injury? There has been plenty of speculation. There have been some inklings, but we don't know anything for sure. Heck, Commanders head coach Dan Quinn, during his post-practice press conference this past Thursday afternoon, June 12th, wouldn't even say on what body part Noah Brown was undergoing an MRI exam. And I think a lot of this, shall we say, Belichicking of the Noah Brown situation is coming from Commanders general manager Adam Peters, who worked in the scouting department of the New England Patriots for the 2003 through 2008 seasons. Peters' formative years as an NFL executive were spent with the Patriots during the peak of their dynasty, with Bill Belichick as head coach and Tom Brady as QB1. Peters learned under Belichick. Anyway, I'm very pleased to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast Commanders analyst Mark Bullock. Mark is exceptional at talking Commanders from an X's and O's standpoint. He does tremendous Commanders all-22 breakdowns. You could read his work on his Substack, Bullock's Film Room, which you can find at markbullock.substack.com. Mark has written for The Athletic and for The Washington Post. He also is a Commanders fan. You can follow Mark on X at Mark Bullock NFL. And Mark has just gotten married. So we, to Mark, say congratulations. Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How about you?
I'm doing well. If you were to do an all-22 breakdown of your wedding, what grade would you give yourself for your performance?
My performance would be pretty poor because I did very little. My wife's performance would be an A plus, like 100 out of 100. She was fantastic. So, but yeah, that's an interesting question. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, she would get 100 out of 100. I would get probably less than 10.
Okay, I gotcha. Well, as we await the news on Noah Brown, and who knows when that news might come, I wanted to talk Commanders receivers with you. The Noah Brown situation does raise the issue of the team's depth at receiver. You look at the Commanders at receiver: Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel Sr., Noah Brown, Jalen Lane, Luke McCaffrey, Michael Gallup, KJ Osborne, Chris Moore, a veteran who was a standout during the mandatory minicamp. What's your assessment of the Commanders' depth at receiver?
I think it's stronger than what it was this time last year. I don't know if I'd say it's a deep group. I don't think it's like an outstanding group. I do think they have enough pieces to withstand an injury like Noah Brown's. I think the addition of Deebo Samuel, he's obviously going to be a high volume target, and Terry McLaurin's obviously going to get what Terry McLaurin's going to get. So I think when you have those guys as your 1 and 2, the guys behind them aren't so heavily involved. Now, I think Noah Brown probably would have been wide receiver 3, and he could still well be, depending on what this injury is. But I think Noah Brown probably was a guy that he had the flexibility to line up outside and inside. We obviously saw him last year excel playing on the outside and doing the kind of rhythm and timing routes, the curl routes, the comebacks and that kind of thing that works really well with Jaden Daniels. And he obviously had a lot of a connection with Noah Brown, and they synced things up really well. And he trusted him as a vet to run the precise routes at the right times. And that's why Brown was very productive in the games that he played. Now in Houston, he also had some flexibility to play into the slot as well. So I thought he was going to be the kind of third receiver that, Deebo's obviously a move piece, and you can move him around, and then they will want to move him around to manufacture touches to him. But he also lines up on the outside, and Dan Quinn's talked about his speed and being able to run deep and that sort of thing. So he's not exclusively going to be a slot guy. He's going to be lining up on the outside as well. So I thought those two were going to kind of flip and flop depending on how they wanted to use Deebo. now with Noah Brown potentially injured, and we are speculating on how bad that injury could be, but if he is potentially injured, you're looking at, Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey profile more in the slot. So does that mean Debo has to play more outside? Could Luke McCaffrey potentially play a little bit more outside? He showed a little bit of flexibility to do that. Or are you looking more at Debo when you want him as his kind of gadget guy? You put him in the slot and you have Michael Gallup or KJ Osborne on the outside, someone that is more of a defined outside guy. And then when you want Debo to be the outside guy, then you shift to Lane or McCaffrey in the slot, and that kind of takes away your flexibility a little bit and kind of lets defenses know what Debo's going to do on any given play. But I think in an ideal world, they'd see Luke McCaffrey as the guy that has the size to be able to play both outside and inside. It just depends on how well his route running has come along. And we have to remember he was a quarterback in college and only just transferred to playing receiver and still was pretty raw with his route running and stuff. And when you look at the type of stuff that Jaden Daniels excelled at last year, as we talked about with Noah Brown, it's the rhythm and timing stuff that kind of speaks to why Luke McCaffrey didn't necessarily get the ball that often. And I'm sure we're going to get onto McCaffrey specifically, but I think a year in the system, a year of knowing what the system is and building connection with Jaden Daniels and having an off season where he's focusing on getting better rather than pre-draft workouts and all that kind of stuff, should hopefully help McCaffrey take a step in the right direction, and maybe he could be the guy that steps up.
And so let's get to Luke McCaffrey. The Commanders took him in the third round of the 2024 NFL Draft out of Rice. McCaffrey played college football for 5 seasons. He played for Nebraska for the 2019 and 2020 seasons and played for Rice for the 2021 through 2023 seasons. He, over his first 3 collegiate seasons, was essentially a combo quarterback running back. He, over his final 2 collegiate seasons, was essentially a combo receiver running back. McCaffrey, very athletic. He registered a relative athletic score per Kentley Platte of 9.44. That ranked number 192 out of 3,402 receiver prospects from 1987 through 2024. McCaffrey played in all 17 of the Commanders games in the 2024 regular season and played in all 3 of the team's games this past postseason, but he really did not play that much. McCaffrey this past regular season played on just 36.03% of the Commanders' offensive snaps, had 18 receptions for 168 yards and no touchdowns on 24 targets. He seemed snake-bitten. He would be open, but the ball just did not come his way often. And McCaffrey this past postseason played on just 16.3% of the Commanders' offensive snaps and had no receptions on 1 target. You and your Substack did a breakdown of McCaffrey June 12th. Headline, quote, "Where does wide receiver Luke McCaffrey stand entering his second year?" End quote. What are your top takeaways from McCaffrey's rookie season?
So I think he was quite unlucky, really. Now, yeah, he didn't perform the way people would have liked him to as, a third-round pick, even though it was their 7th pick of the draft that year. He didn't perform necessarily the way they would have wanted him to. I think he was really unlucky. Early in the year, he played 50% of the snaps, or more than 50% of the snaps in 3 or 4 of the first 5 games. And he had quite a few targets. He had 3 catches or more in the first, again, 3 out of the first 5 games. And Jaden just missed him on a couple of opportunities. They had a deep shot, the one against the Steelers, where he was in the slot and ran a deep over route, and Jaden just overthrew him. There was a couple early in the year, in the first game against the Bucks, where Jaden was clearly still adjusting to life in the NFL, and he took off scrambling when McCaffrey was running free up the seam. And there was a couple of those missed opportunities where it's man, if Jaden was playing at the end of the year the way he played, if he played at the start of the year the way he played at the end of the year, where he was scrambling to pass a lot more often and he was taking those opportunities, and he wasn't just a yard overthrown or here or there, McCaffrey could well have ended up with a similar season to like I'm not going to say he was a Terry McLaurin, but he could have been in the same kind of bracket as a De'Ami Brown who had 300 yards, or Noah Brown that had 450 yards. He could have been somewhere in that kind of mix, with just a little bit more luck. Now that's still not some amazing, outstanding performance, but that would kind of put into perspective, probably be more fair of what he did, because when he played at the start of last season, I thought he did pretty well. Like he showed the ability to go over the middle. He showed the willingness to make those tough catches with safeties coming down and potentially hitting him and injuring him. Not all receivers want to go and make catches over the middle, but he showed the willingness to go and, fully extend and expose like his ribs to being hit by safeties as he made catches over the middle. We saw him, in the Bucks game. He showed some nice runs and nice routes out of the slot. He nearly had a touchdown at the end of that Bucks game on a quick seam concept from the slot. And he was starting to build up a bit of a connection in the Browns game. I think that was week 5. That was his last one where he was above 50% of the snaps, and he had a nice catch on a third down where he was running what looked like a slot fade, and he got the defender to buy into what it was being a slot fade, and then he kind of broke it off out to the sideline. And Jaden's pass was a little bit inside, and he made a nice adjustment to come back inside and fight off the defender to make the catch and convert on third down. And when that kind of play happened, I was like, okay, they're starting to trust him in more high pressure situations like third downs and stuff. But then he had, I think it was that Steelers game where they missed him like 2 or 3 times, and suddenly it was, okay, he's no longer going to be involved in this offense, and his snaps dropped off drastically. And some of that is down to, they wanted to get into more 12 personnel with 2 tight ends. Some of that is they were really struggling with their pass protection against the kind of better teams they were facing in the middle of the year, and they needed to keep guys into chip. And McCaffrey was used a lot in that way, and that meant that he wasn't out running actual routes. He was just chipping and then working to the flat. So, and part of it was probably just as I talked about, I don't have necessarily an evidence to back it up, but my feel is that Jaden preferred more veteran receivers. And you think about the guys that had good years with him last year. Obviously, Terry McLaurin's a veteran. Zach Ertz is a veteran. Noah Brown is a vet that, again, they're all guys that run good routes, understand how to attack leverage, how to where they need to be and exactly when they need to be there. And that would allow Jaden to, get to the top of his drop and deliver his throw with anticipation. And maybe the younger guys like a Ben Sinnott and a Luke McCaffrey, who are more raw coming out of college, they weren't there yet, and they didn't have that chemistry, and they didn't have that understanding and preciseness with their routes that didn't quite build up that trust with Jaden yet. So yeah, I felt like McCaffrey was quite unlucky, but I did feel like he showed enough promise to suggest he could be a somewhat productive receiver in the NFL.
Much more with Mark Bullock in moments. The Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers, continues to do great work. Just recently, an $8 million jury verdict in Baltimore City Circuit Court in a case in which the Nace Law Group represented the family of a 42-year-old man who died after a simple procedure. Lead attorney Chris Nace is a big Commanders fan, a big supporter of this podcast, and his firm wins trials. If you have a case, contact the Nace Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group is tremendous. It is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C. and West Virginia. Lead attorney Chris Nace is an experienced trial attorney who is not afraid to take cases to trials, and that's because the Nace Law Group wins trials. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or Washington, D.C. injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. We're talking with Commanders analyst Mark Bullock of Bullock's Film Room, which you can find at markbullock.substack.com. You mentioned Luke McCaffrey being unlucky last season. The unluckiness to me was epitomized by what happened in the Commanders' 36-33 win over the Philadelphia Eagles at Northwest Stadium this past December 22nd. Quarterback Jaden Daniels in that game, 5 touchdown passes, but also 2 interceptions. The target on each pass that resulted in an interception was Luke McCaffrey. The guy could not catch a break. And you just spoke to this, but it's not like McCaffrey's playing time or targets shot up, even when Noah Brown got injured last season. The Commanders this past December 14th announced having placed Brown on the reserve/injured list due to a kidney injury. He ended up being done for the season, but Brown's absence ended up not meaning much for McCaffrey.
Yeah, and at that point in the year, they kind of went into, as I say, more 12 personnel with 2 tight ends. They used Zacchaeus quite a lot as their kind of gadget guy. De'Ami Brown came into it a little bit more as a kind of deep threat, and that's where we saw him have a bit of a nice run at the end of the season. And I think that was because they felt they needed that outside presence, and they'd been working Luke McCaffrey in the slot. Now, hopefully, this offseason, McCaffrey will have, again, we talked about improving a little bit with his route running and his timing and understanding where he needs to be and how to get there at the right time. And that will hopefully help him be able to play both inside and somewhat outside, because those are different roles in this offense. But yeah, I think that's probably why when Noah Brown went down last year, he was very much their outside guy opposite Terry McLaurin. And so they probably felt like, well, we need an outside guy and that can run kind of a vertical route tree. And that would be a De'Ami Brown rather than a Luke McCaffrey at that point in time.
We are hoping for the best with Noah Brown, but if he is out for a significant amount of time, which receiver on the Commanders is best equipped to be the WR3? Terry McLaurin, WR1, Deebo Samuel, WR2. The WR3 candidates would be Jalen Lane, Luke McCaffrey, Michael Gallup, KJ Osborne, and Chris Moore.
So I quite like Jalen Lane. I felt a lot better after watching Jalen Lane's college film, and I didn't know him going into the draft, but obviously when they drafted him, I studied him, and I liked him a lot more than I liked Luke McCaffrey at this point last year. I feel like he offers really good speed. I think he has really good quickness. He's quite raw in terms of his route running. He doesn't really set up things as well as he could do, and he tries to do a little bit too much. But if they can get some coaching into him, like that speed and that quickness is going to translate. And so, yeah, I'd be tempted to lean more that way. And some of the stuff that he did in college was kind of some of the stuff that Deebo did, and whether you could kind of use that to have them both be quite flexible and keep defenses off balance from them just targeting Deebo on all the kind of jet sweep and gadget stuff. That would probably be the way I'd be leaning. But as I say, like if Jaden Daniels does prefer the kind of veteran guys that he can trust with the precision timing stuff, then maybe that leans in Luke McCaffrey's favor with having a year in the offense, a year building that connection, and a year of coaching where Jalen Lane will be quite raw in that aspect. So I then maybe McCaffrey has the upside there. I'd be hesitant to go down the Gallup or KJ Osborne route. Like, I think Gallup is kind of just a wild card play at this point when a guy has been retired and comes back into the league. It's like kind of, yeah, we'll give him a shot and see what he does, but I'm not relying on that. And KJ Osborne is very much a replaceable receiver. Like he's someone that, like, I think if they were relying on him to be their wide receiver 3, I think they'd probably be looking at free agents as well. So I'd be leaning more towards the rookies or the young guys that they have drafted. And personally, I feel like Lane is probably the better player than McCaffrey, but McCaffrey might be in the better situation right now to replace Noah Brown.
Very good. Commanders analyst Mark Bullock of Bullock's Film Room, which you can find at markbullock.substack.com. Mark, thanks. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.
All right. Luke McCaffrey, really interesting player for the Commanders this coming season. In fact, the very last exchange of Dan Quinn's post-practice press conference this past Thursday afternoon was about McCaffrey. The exchange was between Commanders insider Liam Griffin of the Washington Times and Quinn.
Coach, you talk a lot about players' superpowers and this second-year leap that they can take. How have you seen Luke McCaffrey kind of hone that uniqueness during this period?
Yeah, I think going into year one with Luke, there was never a question like how hard he was going. It's like a golden retriever in a tennis ball. You throw it, he went pick it up, and he's running back, and he's like the tail's wagging, and throw it again, and he goes, and he's like he couldn't go hard enough. Like he was so committed to being a competitor that there was nothing like his limit of how he can go physically. It's way out there. Like he is very tough-minded. What I saw this year was like the detail and footwork of route running, and it was so evident of the work that he put in during his time away from here. And then so to see that come to life, I didn't really need to see what the competitor was. Like I already knew like this guy is an absolute dog. So then to see the technique and the footwork to go with it, that made me really smile, because if the competitor's right and you can match the skill part to it, man, you really have something. And if you've got good skill, but the competitor's not right, it's really hard to be an exceptional, because when it gets really hard, that's when you need the absolute dog the most. And there's some plays in the NFL that are really hard. 7-on-7 and throwing against zone and routes on air. There's a lot of people in America can do that. And it gets hard and somebody's pressing you man to man and you break them off and win, and after a catch, like those are the things that I've seen from him this offseason as a really polished receiver. Was I surprised that he did it? No, because I knew he's a person, if I go back to the competitor, like he's going to find a way or make a way. And he found a way to get those things just right, because he was fairly new at the position, from being in college, transferring, even playing quarterback there and moving to receiver. So Adam's vision was there earlier, that he saw the Senior Bowl, the competitor. Then I got to see that to say, okay, I see it too. And then I knew spending time with Bobby that would take place to go there. And so it was cool to see him coming into year two as a really polished route runner.
So you look at receivers drafted by Washington this decade. The list is not pretty. Antonio Gandy Golden, De'Ami Brown, Dax Milne, Jahan Dotson, Luke McCaffrey, and Jalen Lane. How are McCaffrey and Lane going to do this coming season? Hey, the first day of summer is this Friday, June 20th. Happy summer. And know that if you live in Northern Virginia, you can count on Nova Fireplace and Stove for whatever your outdoor living needs may be. Nova Fireplace and Stove offers custom outdoor fireplaces, outdoor kitchens, grills, fire pits, and patio heaters. Nova Fireplace and Stove offers free in-home estimates for Northern Virginia residents for outdoor kitchens and gas lines. If you live in Northern Virginia and want to increase the look, feel, and value of your home via high-level outdoor living, contact Nova Fireplace and Stove, which is offering a special deal for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. Call 571-513-3803 or visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com and tell Nova Fireplace and Stove that Al Galdi sent you. You do that, you get $50 off any fireplace service before September 1st. This includes cleaning, safety inspection, tune-up, and diagnostic work. Also, Nova Fireplace and Stove offers generators, car charging stations, patio pavers, and water heater replacement/repair. Nova Fireplace and Stove has been around for 2+ decades and is outstanding. It is family owned. It is a 5-star dealer. It is expanding its showroom in Woodbridge, Virginia to include a new outdoor showroom section. Call 571-513-3803. asked to speak to Stuart Moore. He's the general manager. He's a big Commanders fan. He's a loyal listener of this podcast. And make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Also visit Nova Fireplace And Stove.com to check out customer reviews. 571-513-3803 or NovaFireplaceandStove.com and tell Nova Fireplace and Stove that Al Galdi sent you. You do that, you get $50 off any fireplace service before September 1st. Well, we have reached a point of humiliation for the Nationals. They on Tuesday evening got embarrassed. A 10-6 loss to the MLB-worst Colorado Rockies at Nationals Park in Game 2 of a 4-game series. Do not get fooled by that final score of 10-6. The Nats scored 5 runs over the final 2 innings to trim a 10-1 deficit to 10-6. This was a game in which the Nats allowed 6 runs in the top of the 7th. This was a game in which the Nats got out-homered 7-2. The Nats now have lost 10 consecutive games. The Nats, yet again, are at a new low point in MLB's 2025 regular season. 13 games below 500, 30-43, with a run differential of -69. The Nats now are 0-5 on this 7-game homestand against the National League East worst Miami Marlins and MLB worst Colorado Rockies, who in this regular season now are an MLB worst 16-57. The Rockies are atrocious, and yet the Rockies have won each of the first 2 games of this 4-game series at the Nats. I will say what I have been saying on the podcast this week. The Nats rebuild is not working. Yes, that can change as this season goes on, but right now, at this point in time, the Nats rebuild is not working. It is failing. That this team is this bad in year 5 of a rebuild is unacceptable. And I blame everyone. I don't think you have to pick a side in this thing. The Lerner ownership group deserves blame for not spending more on infrastructure and players. President of baseball operations and general manager Mike Rizzo deserves blame for years of bad drafting and bad player development. Manager Davey Martinez, and yes, his coaches, deserve blame for not getting more out of these players. And the players deserve blame because they're the ones playing. And there are some boneheaded mistakes that the Nats make that these players should be above making. But look, the fear right now is that these players just aren't that good and that this rebuild is a failure. Again, that this team is this bad in year 5 of a rebuild is unacceptable. A rebuild should not take this long and certainly should be showing better results by year 5, and that the Nats are winless on this homestand against the lowly Marlins and Rockies. A homestand on which the Nats were supposed to get fat and happy is just brutal. This homestand has been a nightmare. 4 Nats relievers in this 10-6 loss to the Rockies on Tuesday evening combined to allow 7 runs in 3 innings as the Nats bullpen had yet another horrendous game this season. Cole Henry allowed 4 runs without recording an out. He had what ended up being a 6-run 7th for the Rockies was a disaster. He issued a leadoff 4-pitch walk of Mickey Moniak, then issued a full count hit by pitch of Tyler Freeman, despite him having been down in the count at 1.12. Then gave up a first pitch 3-run homer by Hunter Goodman to left field for a 6-1 Rockies lead, and then gave up a full count solo homer by Ryan McMahon to right field for a 7-1 Rockies lead, despite McMahon having been down in the count at 1.02. Jackson Rutledge then came into the game. He allowed 2 runs in 1 inning. He, in the top of the 7th, allowed back-to-back 2-out solo homers to give the Rockies a 9-1 lead. The second homer was a moonshot. The second homer allowed by Rutledge was a 2-out solo homer by Sam Hilliard on a bomb to right field. The homer went a projected 434 feet per Statcast. Eduardo Salazar allowed 1 run in 1 inning. He, in the top of the 8th, gave up a leadoff homer. The lone bullpen bright spot for the Nats was Zach Brixey. He tossed a perfect top of the 9th with 2 swinging strikeouts, but Nats relievers in this game gave up 5 home runs. The Nats starting pitcher in this game gave up 2 home runs. Michael Soroka, he allowed 3 runs in 6 innings with 9 strikeouts. He gave up 5 hits, which were 2 home runs, a double, and 2 singles. He issued 2 walks and 3 hit by pitches. He threw 93 pitches, 58 strikes versus 35 balls. So Soroka in the top of the second gave up a one-out opposite field solo homer by Thairo Estrada to right center field to tie the game at 1. And Soroka in the top of the fourth gave up a two-out first pitch, two-run homer by Michael Toglia to right center field for a 3-1 Rockies lead. That homer went a projected 415 feet per StatCast. A few things with Michael Soroka. First of all, he continues to give up runs, but his peripherals remain strong. Soroka for this regular season now 9 starts, ERA of 5.06, not good, but a whip of just 1.13 and a strikeouts per 9 innings of 9.19. So the peripherals are good, but of course it's hard to ignore that ERA of 5.06. The run prevention just has not been there. Soroka was on the 15-day injured list April 4th, retroactive to April 1st to May 7th. Due to a right arm biceps strain. The Nats offense in this 10-6 loss to the Rockies on Tuesday evening ended up being good, but a lot of the production came in garbage time. The Nats totaled 6 runs, 12 hits, and 4 walks, went 3 for 12 with runners in scoring position. The 12 hits were 2 home runs, 3 doubles, and 7 singles, but 5 of the 6 runs and 7 of the 12 hits came over the final 2 innings. So Brady House, he in just his second MLB regular season game had a 2-hit game. He is the Nats starting third baseman and number 5 batter, went 2 for 4 with an RBI single, another single, and a walk. Nathaniel Lowe, he is the Nats starting first baseman and number 4 batter, went 2 for 5 with a solo homer and a double. Luis Garcia Jr., he is the Nats starting second baseman and number 3 batter, went 1 for 5 with a 2-run homer. CJ Abrams, he is the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, went 2 for 4 with an RBI single, another single, a walk, and a stolen base. And James Wood, he is the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter, went 0 for 3 with 2 walks. All of this was nice, but a lot of this came too late with the outcome of the game essentially set. And so the losing streak now is at 10. The boos at Nationals Park on Tuesday evening were as loud as they have been this season. Davey Martinez, during his post-game press conference on Tuesday night, was asked how he processed the booing at Nationals Park on Tuesday evening. Here was his answer.
Well, I don't. I mean, I really, honestly, for me, it's, I try to look at the positive. House had a good day at the plate. Lau swung about well. Josh Bell swung about well. Young, man, staying on the ball better today. What I look at is this team doesn't quit. It's late. We have life at the end. They don't give in. We had good at bats. For me, now we got to take those at bats to the early part of the game. That's going to be the key. I mean, we got to come out and from the get-go, get the ball up in the zone and really get good at bats. Believe me, it stinks, man. Nobody wants to lose 10 in a row. No way. I mean, I don't. I know I don't. I know those guys don't. But we're not going to quit. We're going to keep fighting. I mean, that's who we are, and I don't quit, and I'm not going to quit on those guys. So we got to keep fighting every day.
Well, I don't know about you, but I can't listen to that and not think this. Are these the dying days for Davey Martinez as Nats manager? Is he right now fired manager managing? You gotta wonder. I mean, not all of this is on Davey Martinez, but he is certainly part of this. Game 3 for the Nats against the Rockies at Nationals Park. Wednesday evening at 6:45. Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
With a $5 meal deal with new McValue. You pick a McDouble or a McChicken, then get a small fry, a small drink, and a 4-piece McNuggets. That's a lot of McDonald's for not a lot of money.
Prices and participation may vary. McDouble meal $6 in some markets for a limited time only.
Well, 15 wins in 22 games now for the Orioles. A 5-1 win at the Tampa Bay Rays on Tuesday night in Game 2 of a 4-game series as the O's, Joe Angel, were back in the win column.
And the Orioles again in the win column.
Yes, Joe, the win column of the O's in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 31-41. Third worst record in the American League, but 15-7 since the 16-34 start. A good offensive game for the O's on Tuesday night. 5 runs, 13 hits, 1 walk, 5 for 10 with runners in scoring position. The 13 hits were a home run, a double, and 11 singles. So the O's in this game got good production from 3 guys who had been out due to injury. Funny what happens when you get healthier, right? Talking about Jordan Westburg, Colton Cowser, and Ramon Laureano. Jordan Westburg, he is the Orioles starting third baseman and number 4 batter, went 3 for 5 with a double and 2 singles. Westburg was on the 10-day injured list from April 28th, retroactive to April 27th to June 10th due to a left hamstring strain. He's since returning, has the following slash line: batting average of .385, on base percentage of .467, slugging percentage of .808. He has been outstanding. Colton Cowser, the milkman. He is the Orioles starting center fielder and number 8 batter, went 1 for 4 with a solo homer. He did strike out 3 times, but Cowser in an Orioles 1-run fifth had a 2-out solo homer to right center field on an 0-2 pitch for a 2-1 Orioles lead. The homer went a projected 405 feet per StatCast. And Ramon Laureano, he is the Orioles starting right fielder and number 6 batter, went 2 for 4 with 2 RBI singles and an outfield assist. Laureano for this regular season, 145 plate appearances, OPS of .839. He has been really productive. Also, Dylan Carlson, nice game for him. He is the Orioles starting left fielder and number 9 batter, went 3 for 4 with 3 singles and a stolen base. The Orioles starting pitcher in this 5-1 win at the Rays on Tuesday night was Dean Kramer. He did not last for long, but he was good. 1 run in 5 innings. He gave up 4 hits, which were a double and 3 singles. He issued 2 walks, recorded 4 strikeouts. He threw 81 pitches, 51 strikes versus 30 balls, and more excellence from the Orioles bullpen. Man, has the bullpen been really good lately. 4 Orioles relievers in this 5-1 win at the Rays on Tuesday night combined for 4 scoreless innings. Keegan Aiken tossed 1 2/3 scoreless innings. Gregory Soto faced 1 batter and got 1 out, which was a swinging strikeout of the Rays' number 1 batter, Josh Lowe, to end the bottom of the 7th with runners on first and second and the O's holding a 4-1 lead. Brian Baker tossed a scoreless bottom of the 8th, and Felix Bautista tossed a perfect bottom of the 9th. Here was Orioles interim manager Tony Mansolino during his post-game session with reporters on Tuesday night on the Orioles bullpen, and then you'll hear a follow-up exchange with Orioles insider Jacob Calvin Meyer of the Baltimore Sun.
You know, the bullpen has kind of did what they've done here for the last 3 weeks. I mean, they've been really incredible, and we've leaned on them heavily, and they did it again tonight.
How much trust do you have in the bullpen at this point? Do you just expect them to just throw up zeros?
I don't know if we ever expect zeros, but it feels pretty good right now. I mean, they've been really good here for 3 or 4 weeks. So I think when the bullpen got built, this was kind of what we thought it might be, and it's kind of happening right now before our eyes.
All right. Also regarding the Orioles bullpen, the O's on Tuesday afternoon actually announced having optioned reliever Colin Selby to AAA Norfolk. I laugh because Selby in Game 1 of this series, the Orioles 7-1 loss at the Rays on Monday night, was great. 2 scoreless innings with 5 strikeouts. So the O's on Monday afternoon announced having recalled Selby from Norfolk. But yeah, things going well for the O's right now. We, during Tony Mansolino's postgame session with reporters on Tuesday night, had this exchange between Jacob Calvin Meyer and Mansolino.
When you guys have a performance like this, does it make you more confident that you guys will be able to kind of claw back into this thing? It is a tough hill to climb, but
It's a huge help, but I don't feel like we haven't been confident. I feel like, even going back to 18 games under 500, I feel like there's been some belief. I think it's obvious that as you get inch closer and win more games at this point, especially against one of the better teams in baseball right here, the belief picks up a little bit. So I've never walked in there and felt like anybody felt like they were out of it. They've had belief from day one.
Yeah, the problem for the O's, of course, is that they dug themselves such a big hole with the 16-34 start, but a lot better since. Game 3 for the O's at the Rays, Wednesday night at 7:35. Trevor Rogers will be the Orioles starting pitcher. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Thursday show, episode 1098. We'll provide you with more on the Commanders. Also on Thursday's show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats are home to the Colorado Rockies Wednesday evening at 6:45 in Game 3 of a 4-game series. The O's are at the Tampa Bay Rays Wednesday night at 7:35 in Game 3 of a 4-game series. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and they'll talk to you on Thursday.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
So you've got a business, but what about a brand? The difference? More of you. Wix gives you the freedom to create your website, own your brand, and do it on your own, exactly how you envisioned it. Experience limitless customization. Boost your creativity and efficiency with AI tools for every part of your business journey. Scale up with built-in SEO, e-com, and scheduling features. Put more of you in your business. Go to Wix.com and do it all yourself.